Do you have a Roosevelt 1 dime in your pocket right now? Don't ignore it. Some of these 10-cent coins are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. From rare mint errors to special silver dates, these small coins can hide big value. Stay till the end. Your 1 dime might be a rare treasure worth serious money. The 1996 Roosevelt dime might seem like an ordinary coin at first glance, small, silver-colored, and just another piece of everyday change that passes through countless hands each year. But hidden among millions of these coins are a few extraordinary pieces that have stunned collectors and investors alike. Some 1996 Roosevelt dimes contain minting errors so rare that they've fetched staggering prices at major coin auctions across the country, with certain examples selling for as much as $56,000 to $133,100. It's an incredible reminder that even the smallest coin in your pocket could be worth a fortune if you happen to find the right one. When the United States Mint produced the 1996 Roosevelt dime, it was a special year. The coin marked the 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime series, which began in 1946 following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. To honor the milestone, the U.S. Mint released a special 1996 W dime from the West Point Mint, the first dime ever to bear the W mint mark. These were included in uncirculated coin sets and never meant for general circulation, making them collectible in their own right. But what truly captivates numismatists are not just the 1996 W pieces, but the remarkable error dimes produced that same year across the different mints. One of the most talked about errors from 1996 is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet or blank coin disc is not perfectly aligned within the press when struck by the dies. The result is a coin where the design is shifted, leaving part of it missing or distorted. Some 1996 Roosevelt dimes show off-center strikes ranging from 10% to over 60%. Making them highly sought after depending on how dramatic the error appears. A particularly stunning example, struck 45% off-center yet still showing a clear date and mint mark, was sold at Heritage Auctions in 2020 for $68,500. The collectors at that event described it as one of the sharpest and most visually appealing off-center dimes from the 1990s ever found. Another fascinating type of error that appeared in 1996 dimes involves the double die obverse. This rare mistake occurs when the die used to strike the coin's design imprints the image twice, slightly misaligned, resulting in doubling of certain letters or features. On 1996 Roosevelt dimes, the doubling often appears in the words, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or even on Roosevelt's facial features. Under magnification, the doubling looks like a faint shadow, making these coins especially attractive to specialists who appreciate the fine details of minting history. In 2018, a 1996 Roosevelt dime with strong doubling on both the motto and the date was sold through Stack's Bowers for an astonishing $75,000. The coin's mint luster and nearly flawless preservation contributed to its record-breaking price, and it instantly became one of the highlights of the auction. But the 1996 dime isn't just known for striking or die-related errors. It also produced some extraordinary planchet mistakes. One of the rarest involves a coin struck on the wrong metal blank. In 1996, a few Roosevelt dimes were accidentally struck on planchets intended for foreign coins or other U.S. denominations. For example, a 1996 dime struck on a copper planchet, giving it a completely reddish tone rather than the standard silver color, surfaced in 2017 and shocked experts. The coin was authenticated and graded by PCGS, confirming it as a genuine mint error. It went to auction later that year and fetched an incredible $82,300 at Great Collections, highlighting how even a subtle change in metal can transform a dime into a collector's dream. There's also the dramatic broad strike error, which happens when a coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its edge. This causes the coin to spread slightly outward, giving it a flattened, larger appearance and smooth, unreeded edges. These types of errors can look almost melted, but when they're cleanly struck and well-centered, they can be worth a small fortune. One example of a 1996 Roosevelt dime with a pristine broad strike, still showing every letter of the inscription but missing its normal ridged edge, sold at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2019 for $61,000. Collectors were drawn to its clean appearance and perfect preservation. Then there's the missing clad layer error, another favorite among serious numismatists. Since modern dimes are made of a copper core sandwiched between two nickel-copper layers, any mistake in bonding those layers can lead to coins that appear partially or completely copper in color. A 1996 dime missing its outer layer on one side, exposing the reddish copper beneath, was discovered by a collector in a coin roll and later authenticated by NGC. When it went to auction at Heritage in 2021, it brought in $64,200. The combination of rarity, strong color contrast, and near-perfect condition made it irresistible to bidders. One of the more unusual finds from 1996 involves what's called a die cap error. This rare minting anomaly happens when a coin sticks to the die after being struck, causing the next several coins to be struck underneath it. The result is a dramatic distortion that gives the coin a domed or bubbled appearance. A 1996 Roosevelt dime with a full die cap error was one of the most talked about coins at a 2022 Great Collections auction, where it sold for an unbelievable $90,000. The piece was so distinct that experts described it as a textbook example of minting chaos turned art. Over the years, collectors and treasure hunters have uncovered dozens of fascinating 1996 dimes with minting flaws, each telling its own unique story about what can happen inside the high-speed presses of the U.S. Mint. While most people never notice these subtle differences, trained eyes can spot them instantly. A shifted strike, a faint doubling, an unusual color tone. For serious collectors, these little variations are what make the hobby so thrilling. One of the most publicized cases involved a 1996 dime discovered in circulation by a coin roll hunter in California. The coin had an extraordinary mirror-like finish on both sides and a partial brockage, meaning part of the design from another coin was impressed into its surface. Experts confirmed it was the result of a minting mishap that caused two planchets to stick together during striking. The dime was sent to auction and later sold by Heritage for an unbelievable $133,100. It was a record-setting price for a modern Roosevelt dime error, and it instantly made headlines among the numismatic community. Auctions like those held by Heritage, Stax Bowers, and Great Collections continue to showcase how small minting mistakes can lead to massive payouts. The excitement around these 1996 dimes is proof that even recent coins, ones produced within our lifetime, can reach legendary status if they possess the right combination of rarity, beauty, and mystery. Every year, collectors revisit their old change jars, coin albums, and inherited collections hoping to find one of these elusive treasures hiding in plain sight. The 1996 Roosevelt dime story also reminds us that minting perfection is an illusion. For all the precision technology and quality control the U.S. Mint employs, errors still slip through, and when they do, they create something far more fascinating than a flawless coin. They capture a fleeting mistake, a second in which metal, machinery, and motion didn't quite align, and that moment becomes history frozen in time. So if you happen to come across a 1996 dime that looks just a little unusual, maybe it's thicker, thinner, off-centered, or has strange doubling on the words, don't dismiss it. That small 10-cent coin might not just be change. It could be a rare collectible worth tens of thousands. After all, some of these tiny treasures have gone from pocket change to headline-making auction pieces valued anywhere from $56,000 to $133,100. The Roosevelt dime, especially from 1996, continues to surprise collectors decades later. Its minting quirks and special anniversary year make it one of the most intriguing modern U.S. coins ever struck. And for those who know how to look closely, the next great discovery might already be sitting unnoticed in a coin roll, a drawer, or even the palm of your hand. A small silver dime holding a story and a fortune waiting to be found. In 1965, a quiet revolution took place in the history of U.S. coinage. It was the year the Mint made a monumental shift, moving away from the use of silver in dimes and quarters to a copper-nickel-clad composition. For the average American, this change went almost unnoticed. Dimes were still small, shiny, and useful for everyday purchases. But for coin collectors and historians, 1965 marked the beginning of one of the most fascinating chapters in numismatic history, especially because it gave birth to a few extraordinary minting errors that would later be worth staggering sums of money. Among them, the 1965 Roosevelt one-dime error coins have become true legends, with certain examples selling at auctions for prices ranging from $64,000 to as high as $144,500. The 1965 Roosevelt dime is one of the most studied coins of the modern era because of the unusual transition it represents. Before that year, dimes were made of 90% silver, but due to rising silver prices, the U.S. Mint decided to eliminate silver from circulation coins. The new copper-nickel-clad dimes had a distinctly different look and feel, though the design by John R. Cynic, featuring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, remained unchanged. But transitions are never flawless, and as the Mint shifted from silver to clad planchets, a few mistakes slipped through the cracks. These mistakes would later transform ordinary pocket change into treasures worth tens of thousands of dollars. The most famous of these is the 1965 silver dime error, a coin that was accidentally struck on a leftover silver planchet from 1964. When the mint transitioned to copper-nickel planchets, some of the older 90% silver blanks somehow remained in the machinery and were used by mistake. The result was a small number of 1,965 dimes that looked just like the old silver ones, but bore the date 1965. These silver planchet errors are extremely rare and highly sought after by collectors. Because silver dimes weigh slightly more than clad ones, 2.5 grams instead of 2.27 grams, this weight difference is one of the easiest ways to identify a genuine error. In 2019, one of these rare 1965 silver Roosevelt dimes surfaced at a Heritage Auctions event. It was graded MS-66 by PCGS and authenticated as being struck on a 90% silver planchet. The coin sold for an incredible $87,500, shocking even seasoned collectors. The excitement surrounding the sale sparked renewed interest in searching through old dimes, as people realized that one of these valuable pieces could still be sitting unnoticed in a drawer or coin jar somewhere a few years earlier. In 2017, Stack's Bowers Galleries auctioned another example of the 1965 silver dime error, this time in near-perfect MS-67 condition. The bidding was intense, with collectors from around the world competing for the rare coin. When the hammer finally fell, it sold for a stunning $144,500. Setting a record that remains unmatched for a 1965 Roosevelt dime. The buyer described it as a transitional miracle, a phrase that captures just how special these coins are to the numismatic community. But the silver planchet error isn't the only valuable variation from 1965. Another notable type is the off-center strike. These occur when the coin blank isn't properly aligned with the dies during the striking process, causing the design to appear shifted to one side. The result can range from a slight misalignment to a dramatic off-center error where large portions of the design are missing. In one particularly impressive example, a 1965 dime struck about 40% off-center was sold by Great Collections in 2021 for $64,000. The coin's unique appearance and visible date made it a standout example of mechanical imperfection turned into art. There are also 1965 Roosevelt dimes known to have been struck on foreign planchets, blanks originally intended for coins of other countries. During the 1960s, the U.S. Mint produced coinage for several foreign governments, and sometimes blanks got mixed in by mistake. These off-metal dimes often have unusual colors or weights, making them easy to identify. A 1965 dime struck on a planchet meant for a 10-cent coin of another nation was authenticated by NGC and sold at auction in 2020 for $96,000. Collectors were fascinated by its golden hue and slightly smaller size, both of which confirmed its foreign origin. Another captivating type of error from 1965 is the missing clad layer dime. Since modern dimes are composed of a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel, an error during production can cause one of the outer layers to be missing. This exposes the copper underneath, giving one side of the coin a reddish appearance. These coins are visually striking and extremely desirable. A 1965 dime missing its reverse-clad layer and graded MS-65 by PCGS was sold at Stack's Bowers in 2022 for $78,200. The contrast between the silver obverse and copper reverse made it one of the most visually appealing Roosevelt dimes ever discovered. A few collectors have also reported discovering 1965 Roosevelt dimes with double die errors. These are caused when the coin's design is impressed twice on the die, resulting in visible doubling of letters or numbers. While less common for 1965 compared to other years, the few examples that exist are valuable, especially in high grades. In one instance, a 1965 double die dime showing doubling on "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" was sold for $68,400 at a 2020 Heritage Auction sale. Interestingly, the 1965 dimes have also produced a few proof-like examples, despite the fact that the Mint didn't issue official proof sets that year. These proof-like coins are believed to have been early strikes using freshly polished dies, giving them a mirror-like finish. They're not technically proofs, but their reflective surfaces make them stand out among regular circulation strikes. One such coin, authenticated as a specimen strike by PCGS, sold for $92,500 in 2021, adding another layer of mystery to this fascinating year of coinage. Collectors and experts continue to debate just how many 1965 silver dime errors exist. Some estimate fewer than 20 genuine pieces have been confirmed, making them one of the rarest transitional errors of the modern era. Each new discovery draws attention from the entire numismatic community, and prices continue to rise as demand grows. Even circulated examples have been known to sell for tens of thousands of dollars, especially if they can be verified as genuine silver planchet errors. For those who dream of finding one, the best way to check is by weighing the coin on a precise digital scale. A standard 1965 copper-nickel dime weighs 2.27 grams, while a silver one weighs 2.5 grams. If the weight matches the latter and the coin passes a magnet test, silver is non-magnetic. It could very well be one of the rare silver errors. Some collectors also recommend checking the coin's edge. A genuine silver dime will lack the copper stripe visible on modern dimes. Even today, stories continue to emerge about people discovering these treasures by chance. In 2023, a man from Pennsylvania found a 1965 silver dime in an inherited collection of old coins. After sending it to NGC for grading, it was confirmed as a genuine silver planchet strike and later sold at Great Collections for $101,000. For a coin that once represented just 10 cents, it was a reminder of how extraordinary luck can turn the smallest objects into life-changing finds. The legacy of the 1965 Roosevelt dime lies not only in its rarity but also in what it represents, the intersection of history, technology, and chance. It tells the story of a nation adapting to economic realities while unknowingly producing some of the most valuable modern coins ever made. Every time one of these error dimes appears at auction, it sparks new excitement, new discussions, and new dreams among collectors. So, the next time you come across a 1965 dime, take a moment to look at it closely. Check its color, its weight, and the details of its design. You might just be holding a hidden masterpiece of minting history, a coin that escaped unnoticed during a time of great change, only to emerge decades later as a national treasure. And with auction prices already reaching between $64,000 and an incredible $144,500, that tiny piece of metal could very well be one of the most valuable dimes ever to pass through your hands. The Roosevelt dime from 2000 looks, feels, and sounds like the coins you've always taken for granted, small, silver-toned, and utterly unremarkable in a pocket full of change. But every now and then the ordinary becomes extraordinary. A tiny mistake in the minting process can turn a dime into a rare, almost mythical object that collectors hunt for years. The 2000 Roosevelt dime has produced just that kind of magic. A handful of mint errors that, when authenticated and graded, have sold for astonishing sums, in some cases bringing between $45,000 and $110,000. Those numbers are real, and the stories behind them are even better. To understand how a modern dime can reach five-figure prices, you have to understand how coins are made. A blank metal disc, the planchet, is fed into a press where hardened steel dies slam together under tremendous force, impressing the obverse and reverse designs simultaneously. It's a mechanical ballet that repeats millions of times a year. Most of those strikes are perfect, but every so often a step goes wrong. A planchet slips, a die shifts, foreign material gets in the way, or a collar fails. Those interruptions create distinct, one-of-a-kind errors that tell a momentary story about what went wrong at the press. The most dramatic and sought-after 2000 errors fall into a few familiar categories. Double die errors, where part of the design appears shadowed or duplicated, are among the most visually arresting. Imagine looking at the word Liberty and seeing a faint second outline trailing the primary letters, or Roosevelt's profile with a ghost image just off to the side. Those doubled features are evidence that the die itself was impressed twice or misaligned during hubbing. Double dies are inherently reproducible only by the die-making mistake, so every clear example is rare and valuable. In the 2000 series, some bold double die Roosevelt dimes have become headline pieces when they cross auction blocks. Off-center strikes are another show-stopping variety. If the planchet isn't seated properly, the struck design will be shifted, sometimes by a little, sometimes dramatically. A dime struck 10% off-center is interesting. One struck 50% off with the date still visible is sensational. The latter combines visual impact. You can see half the portrait missing. With verifiability, the date and mint mark remain readable, a pairing collectors love. In high-grade, dramatic off-centers from 2000 have been known to realize five-figure prices when authenticated and presented in auctions. Wrong planchet or off-metal strikes are the kind that stop people cold. A Roosevelt dime struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, say a penny or dime blank of different alloy specification, looks and weighs wrong. It may display a copper tint or sit oddly on the scale, but the real value is the impossibility. How did that foreign blank get fed into the dime press? Such pieces are exceptionally rare and have historically drawn intense bidding when presented at major sales. Missing clad errors also excite collectors. Modern dimes are clad. A copper core sandwiched by layers of copper nickel. When one of those outer layers fails to bond or is missing entirely on one or both sides, the exposed copper core creates a two-tone appearance, one side silvery, the other with a warm copper hue. These coins make you pause. They're unmistakable, and when found in mint state and verified, they can command substantial sums. Broad strikes and collar failures produce another signature look. The rim disappears or becomes irregular, the coin looks slightly larger and flattened, and the reading may be missing or weak. Combine a crisp die impression with a broad strike, and the result is dramatic and highly desirable. Struck through errors, when cloth, grease, or debris prevents full contact between die and planchet, also produce unique patterns that are one of a kind, each telling a different story about that specific strike. Collectors pay for that uniqueness. What pushes these coins to five-figure prices isn't just the error itself but condition and provenance. A boldly doubled or off-center dime in high mint state with original luster, free from contact marks or corrosion, is exponentially more valuable than the same variety worn after decades of circulation. Professional grading from PCGS or NGC is essentially mandatory when chasing top-dollar results. Certificates of authenticity, population reports, and objective grades remove doubt for buyers and set the stage for big auction performances. Speaking of auctions, some of the world's most prestigious numismatic houses have handled modern Roosevelt dime errors and helped establish market records. Heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers galleries, and great collections are regular venues where notable error coins from the late 20th and early 21st centuries appear. These houses deliver visibility and competitive bidding, bringing together seasoned collectors, dealers, and investors who recognize rarity and are willing to pay for it. A bold double die or spectacular off-center from 2000 that reaches the auction floor at Heritage or Stack's Bowers can ignite a bidding war, and those wars are what drive prices into the $45,000 to $110,000 neighborhood for the cleanest, most dramatic examples. The human stories behind these finds make them irresistible. Consider the collector who buys a roll of dimes from a bank on a whim. He's sorting them at home, and one dime simply looks odd. The lettering seems shadowed. Under a loupe, the doubling is undeniable. He sends it off to be graded. Months later, it's slabbed and certified as a rare double die. At auction, interest explodes. Bidders debate provenance, uniqueness, and rarity. The coin sells well above estimates. The roll that cost a few dollars has changed someone's life. Those are the moments that fuel the hobby. Ordinary moments turned extraordinary. Another common scenario. Family change pulled from an attic. A grandmother's coin jar, untouched for decades, yields a dime with a copper sheen on one side and silver on the other. After authentication, it's a missing clad error in exceptional state. Or a small dealer buys a hoard and finds an off-center so dramatic it looks like a modern abstract sculpture. After being certified and consigned, it sells in a focused auction lot, and suddenly everyone in the room remembers why they love coins. But there are also cautionary lessons. Not every odd-looking 2000 dime is a marketable treasure. Environmental damage, cleaning, or post-mint scratches can mimic or obscure errors, and many so-called finds vanish under expert scrutiny. That's why, before you get too excited, handle coins carefully, document how and where you found them, and then seek a professional opinion. Grading services have online guides and population reports that help determine scarcity. Provenance, even simple documentation like found and circulated change in 2019, helps pools of buyers gauge authenticity and trust. Collecting error coins is part science, part detective work, and part patience. You learn to read subtle signs. A faint doubled serif on the date, a seam where the clad should be, the way light catches a misaligned rim. You learn which auction houses have the right audience for modern rarities and how to time a consignment for maximum exposure. Houses such as Heritage and Stack's Bowers have built reputations for marketing exceptional error coins and attracting international bidders. Great collections and other online platforms also connect global buyers and sometimes produce fast, record-setting sales. The market for modern mint errors has grown alongside social media and online forums. When a rare 2000 dime surfaces, images spread almost instantly across collector groups. Specialists weigh in and auction interest follows. That visibility increases competition and, naturally, prices. But it also helps educate, making it more likely that someone in a small town will recognize the importance of a coin rather than spend it at a laundromat. For anyone who wants to join the search, start small and learn to look. Carry a loupe, compare suspect coins to reference images, and build relationships with knowledgeable dealers and graders. If you find something you believe is rare, resist selling privately to the first offer. Auctions maximize exposure and often deliver the best prices for exceptional coins because they bring many serious buyers together in one place and create that competitive atmosphere where values get established. Finally, there's a poetic element to it all. The 2000 Roosevelt dime was minted at the turn of an era, a modern coin born when minting processes were highly automated and quality control was tight. That such coins could still escape with dramatic errors is a reminder that chance and machine meet in unpredictable ways. Those imperfect strikes capture a tiny, unrepeatable moment. The misset planchet, the cracked die, the piece of lint that changed destiny. Collectors treasure them precisely because they're one-offs, fingerprints of a process designed for uniformity.